All right, time for Count It Off out of Nashville, Tennessee. I'm your host, Jeff Dayton. I'm a career music guy. I've been doing this forever. I think and ever, maybe and ever and ever. And the cool thing about the show is that I get to talk to my friends and all sorts of cool people who can talk about their careers in the music biz. And we've got a very special guest today. Teri Cote is with us. Hey, Teri.
Hi.
We're so glad you're here. It's great to talk to you. Yeah, and so I'm going to let Magic Marcia kick it off, and then we'll go ahead and talk.
Welcome to Count It Off with your host, Jeff Dayton, where we explore the world of music through the eyes of some fascinating guests. So get tuned up, and let's count it off.
And we are on the way. Count it off here in our top secret location in Nashville, Tennessee, right down the road from Opryland. Oops, I gave it away. And Teri, where are you today?
I'm in Winchester, Massachusetts.
Well, that's a ways. No wonder you sound so far away.
Yeah.
How's things out there?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Today we have some nice weather. Well, kind of nice. The weather's been funny, but other than that,
Yeah. Yeah, we know each other a long time ago back in Scottsdale days, and when there was a lot going on, and you were a sensational drummer, and we had a little band together and did all kinds of stuff together, and it's just great to be reconnected here and have you on the show. I want to get folks acquainted with you, and so would you tell us about where music found you, and what was that beginning like for you?
Well, yes, my family had music always going. We were very musically minded. My mother wasn't a musician, but she loved music and always had great music playing, anything from Barry White to Chris Christopherson to, Rita Coolidge. The list just goes on. There was a great variety of music. And my older sister, I had two older sisters. The middle sister was musical. She plays the guitar, and I would sit with her a lot when she would sing and play, and I loved it. And I knew all the songs, and I would sing with her, and it really inspired me. She was probably my greatest inspiration as a young person, besides the great music we would listen to, which of course was amazing. But as far as a one-on-one personal experience for inspiration, my older sister, with her guitar and singing. We both loved James Taylor. So we would sing James Taylor songs, and, it was great.
Where was home for you growing up like that?
That was in Altadena, California.
Okay. So you're basically a Cali girl, aren't you? If you go right back to the roots.
I'm completely a Cali girl.
Well,
yes, I am.
What are you doing so far east? I mean, come on.
I don't know. It's funny how we migrate. Things just kind of happen. But California is not the same for me anymore. I mean, the weather feels the same when you go out. But, you know how it is. You can never go back, right? Everything changes. And you can try to go back. It always ends up being a little disappointing. So I've learned not to try to do that anymore in life. It's a space and time that's so special. That's really the magic of it,
Yeah. Well, we just did a little technical correction, and Teri's back with us here and sounding better than ever. The thing that impressed me about you, I didn't really even know you until I found out you played the drums, and I forget what it was, how that happened, but I remember, I guess it was you were sitting in with the Herndon brothers or something in Scottsdale.
I was just going to say it must have been the Herndon brothers. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Ronaldo...
Actually, it was.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Good memory then. I was just talking to Ronaldo Martin, who I just ran into by chance at the Handlebar J in Scottsdale there where the Herndon brothers were when I was in town playing the Arizona Songwriters Gathering. And it was so cool to see him when we were just reminiscing on the phone a minute ago. But both of us were saying it's different going back there now. It's still a cool place, but it's not where I'd want to live today. And, he grew up there, and I spent 21 years there altogether. So it's interesting how things change, because the truth is it was so cool back then, it can't compare now. Yeah. And there was so much more work for live music. I mean, gosh, every bar in town had a band, and it's hard to find bars that have a band anymore. I mean, might have some house music pumped in or something. But you were kicking it, and I remember how good you were on the drums, and that led to talking about, using you on some stuff and some gigs. And you started out on drums at what age? Where did that come in?
Ooh, I wanted to play drums since I was about 7. And so I knew I wanted to play drums. And, of course, parents don't take you serious at that age. So I created my own drum set at around 9 years old. And I would sit from the kitchen, the typical story of the Tupperware. And
love it.
I had a Folgers can as my throne, and I used wooden spoons, and I took all these, I was an engineer brain even back then, because I am an engineer brain, and, took these old margarine Tupperwares, and I filled one up with black-eyed peas and one with pennies and one with water, thinking each one, the water would go, doop, which it didn't because the plastic was too thick. And then the one with the pennies would be like a snare drum, but that really, probably a little bit, but you couldn't really hear the differences. And I said, oh, well, I'm going to use this anyway. I made a little drum set with that, and I would play to Earth, Wind & Fire right in front of the stereo. I just remember that, and Earth, Wind & Fire really, drumming wise, Earth, Wind & Fire, Prince, Michael Jackson. We listened to a lot of R&B in that time. So that's really what inspired me on the drumming level, was the funk, the grooves of Earth, Wind & Fire. Really, they were the ultimate. Still one of my all-time absolute favorite bands. So that's what made me want to play the drums. And I started on a Tupperware thing, and then. When I was 13, or I was about 11 or 12, I would tell my mom, as soon as I get to junior high, I'm joining that drum corps, because my middle school was about 4 blocks from the junior high I was going to go to. And every morning the principal would have our class sit outside on the the basketball courts. We'd all have to sit out there and listen to him talk. And I never heard a word he said. It was, first of all, I was so young. We don't want to sit and listen to a principal talk. I don't think anybody was listening. But all I could hear was, But you could hear the drums, because there was a really good drum corps at the junior high school. And it was, they would march through the cool hallways. The school was big, and they would march through the hallways and doing the color guard in the morning and playing the cadences. And my body would just I'd get the chills right now thinking of it. Every day I got the chills out of my mind. And I go, oh my God, I am so joining that drum corps. The day, and this is 2 years I sat there listening to them every morning and going, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to get there. So literally I got to school. I'd been telling my mom, as soon as I go to Elliott Junior High, I'm joining the drum corps. And she was like, oh, okay, that's great, honey. So, I got there. I went directly to the band room, and I said, I want to play in the drum corps. And she goes, well, Miss Carvolsa, I remember her. She said, you have to play you have to play in the concert band if you want to play in the drum corps. I go, I don't care. I'll do whatever I need to do. I'm playing in the drum corps.
Oh my gosh. You just had it. You were all set with that vision, and that road was cut, wasn't it?
I don't really think it was my choice. I really think it chose me.
Yeah.
So I went home and I told my mom, and she was so shocked. And I was surprised, thinking, I've been telling you for 2 years I'm going to do this. But she was still like, what?
Yeah,
and I go, I've been telling you this is what I want to do. So that year she got me a drum set for my birthday, and it was it was a John Bonham kit, exactly like John Bonham's Orange Vista Light, same sizes and everything. My bass drum was a 26-inch bass drum.
That's huge.
Which is massive. Yeah, it was crazy. I could barely get around the drums. But another funny thing about that, the location that we were renting a little house that was behind a big house. There was 2 women that lived there, and they were both professional drummers. And as soon as I found that out, I thanked God. I literally looked up into the sky and said, thank you, God. Yeah. It was absolutely magical. And that was it. Mom got me the drums. I had a drum teacher. She lived right there. Cam Davis played with Jethro Tull. She played with Fanny. You remember Fanny?
I remember the name.
Well, that was her.
Wow.
She was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Great. I mean, that just lined up in the cosmos.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It kind of always has been like that. And so I kind of realized it wasn't really a choice of mine. I really think it chose me a long time ago.
Boy, where'd it go from there? From middle school, now you're in the drum corps and the concert band. What happened next?
Well, then we moved up to Northern California. And I met a band I had these high school friends. They were 2 brothers. And one played the guitar and one played banjo. They were in a country band. And they had their own country band, a family band. And I just remembered they would always walk through the hallways, because I would play drums with the only other kit player in high school. And we would play for the assemblies and stuff like that. Plus, I was in the drum corps. So they would always walk by and go, "Hey, you awesome drummer." And then I started saying, "Hey, you awesome banjo player." "Hey, you awesome guitar player." That was like how we would call each other. Uh-huh. And then eventually, funny thing is, I ended up dating their drummer for a very short period of time. This is probably a part of the reason why, but he ended up being out of town and they needed a drummer and they asked me to sub. And I said, "Sure." I'm thinking I'm being all helpful and stuff. And they really loved me. And they were like, "Slug is out." His nickname was Slug.
Oh, no. What are you going to tell him?
Slug is out. Well, they just told him whatever they had to tell him. I actually was like, well, I wasn't really crazy about Slug and we weren't really making it. And I was just, I didn't really think drums were his strong calling. And it wasn't like, I figured the guys are going to do what they need to do, and I wasn't too concerned about it, really.
Yeah.
And they gave me the gig.
From the way you're describing it, though, I mean, it'd be hard for anybody to match the passion that you have.
Oh, well, that's sweet of you to say.
No, I mean it. I mean, we talked to a lot of people on this podcast, and everybody's got the passion for music. But when the everyday weekend warrior, I've got a guitar, but I don't play it much anymore. I mean, there's lots of people with instruments, but they just don't have. They're not on that road. I mean, they know what it is, and they can play, and they enjoy it, and. You've always impressed me with that. You've got that drive. So we're getting towards your big career move.
We're almost there, actually, because that band was called the Marcy Brothers.
Oh, yes, the Marcy Brothers. I remember Kevin and those guys when they were here in Nashville.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's who I played with, and they were signed with Warner Music. Very soon after that, I started playing with them, and we were playing local hee-haw type things. Like we were really bluegrass. They had never had drums before. Their mother played the bass. The father was the manager, 3 brothers. And it was full on bluegrass, really. And then, I started playing with them, and we'd do like high school gigs with hay bales and local little things in Orville, California.
Yeah.
And then that started picking up, and we started traveling in the state doing concerts and fairs and stuff like that. And the next thing you know, they got signed by Warner Music because they were really good.
Yeah.
And we started opening up for all, everybody. Alabama, everybody, all the top artists. We were opening for them. And then they ended up with RCA for a while too. And so anyway, we did that for several years. And then I graduated and moved out of town. I mean, I stopped playing with them at one point. I kind of lose track of the order of things, but I moved out of town and I went up to Reno, and I had a gig waiting for me there with a trio that played all the casinos. And it was a husband and wife team. She was the drummer and the lead singer, and he was a keyboard player. And they had a guitar player, and they wanted another female drummer. And at the time I was dating Freddie Powers Jr. I don't know if you ever knew Freddie Powers Jr.
I never knew Jr. I knew Freddie, though.
Yeah, well, he played drums. He was a drummer.
Okay.
And I met him and Junior and Merle all at the same time when I played with the Marcy Brothers, and we went up to Silverthorne Mountain playing in Reading for the, what was it called? The Marlboro contest?
Oh, yeah, the Marlboro Country Roundup or whatever.
Yeah, and we won.
Oh, geez.
So that's where I met Freddie and Merle. And Freddie Jr., I had a crush on him immediately. He's a long-haired little drummer guy. He's adorable. And so he became my boyfriend for a while, and he moved to Reno, and he said, "Hey, there's this band."
I'm sensing a pattern here, Teri. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, right? So he said, "There's a band up here. They're looking for a female drummer." And I was getting ready to graduate, and I wanted to get out of Orville. And then he said, "Are you interested?" I said, "Absolutely." And so he connected me with them, and they said, "Great. You can come live with us. We live here." And they had a room for me, and I went right out of high school and moved there immediately, like the day after I graduated.
Wow.
And started gigging with them in the casinos.
And Reno was a cool place back then, too, because I started going there in the late 80s with Glenn Campbell, and we were playing Harris back then. And it was probably a ways before you were there, or maybe when you were there. I don't even know. But I
was 1988.
That's right, when we were playing Harris. We were there probably 2-3 times a year at the Celebrity Showroom. Yeah, we had great memories of that. Another one of the brothers came to mind, Kendall and Kevin Marcy, and then who was the third one? Was another K, wasn't it?
Chris.
And one of them is still playing with Brad Paisley, right?
That's Kendall.
Yeah.
And Chris is a manager. He was doing some stuff with the U2, the last I heard, just not that long ago. And I don't know. He still manages artists, I believe.
Well, they went on to good stuff. That's rare in this business,
they did.
because a lot of us,
Sure.
fall by the wayside for one reason or another. You end up with a day job, the dreaded day gig, and or we used to call it a straight job because you're not a musician.
Right.
Yeah. There you are gigging and doing all that stuff. And how did you end up in Phoenix?
In Phoenix?
Yeah. What got you to Phoenix?
You're going to die. Because we have a pattern here, right?
Okay.
Well, that's, I met Jim Ingle when I played at Vegas. Jim Ingle was a drummer with the Pointer Sisters. He was one of my best friends. He was a drummer. A guy named Stacey Henry was Sonny Turner's drummer, and he was one of my best friends. And one of his best friends was this drummer who played with the Pointer Sisters, who lived in Phoenix. And he and I met, and we started dating.
Oh, man. 1 is a point, 2 is a line, 3 is a road. Okay, we're seeing this now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
no, I mean, most of the time I left a town and I left a town to go be with somebody that I was going to be with to somewhere else. Otherwise, I would have stayed where I was,
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm grateful for him. Otherwise, I never would have probably left.
Well, Phoenix is where you and I connected, and you were nice enough to sing on some stuff that I wrote, and it's cool to be back in touch with you because it sure has been a long time. It sure has.
It really, really has been a long time.
Well, I want to jump ahead to your big gig, which is the one that I know you best for, as far as national fame and fortune goes, is playing with David Cassidy. Tell us how that happened.
I had been living in Austin, Texas, for 5 years, and going back to Vegas, basically, there's a guy in Vegas named Lon Bronson. He's got a band there still called the Lon Bronson Band. It's a big horn band. They've been there forever. And I knew him. I used to go see him, and we had a lot of the same friends. I would see the show and whatnot. And then there was this man named Norm Kenny. Norm Kenny was an engineer with A&M Studios back in the 70s and the late 60s. He engineered everybody from, Barbra Streisand and Neil Diamond to the Yellow Jackets, Gino Vanelli, Cheech and Chong, the Carpenters, amazing artists. And he originally was a drummer. So he always loved my drumming, and he would come listen to me in Vegas all the time. He became one of my best friends. So moving back to Austin, I moved to Austin after Phoenix. Mm-hmm. And I was there, and I'd been there for 5 years. I was actually getting ready to move to Ashland, Oregon at that time. And Lon Bronson, he was the musical director for David Cassidy at that time. And I just remember I was at Tommy's drum shop where I used to teach, and Tommy said, "Hey," I hadn't been in there for about 4 months because I had taken a break. And I went in, and he goes, "Hey, this guy, Lon Bronson, was calling you." And I was like, "Oh, that's wild. If Lon's calling me here, it was really strange." So I knew it was probably for a gig. And I called him back, and he goes, "Yeah, I wanted to know if you wanted the David Cassidy gig." And I was like, "David Cassidy, I remember that name." And he sent me a picture. I go, "Oh, yes, I remember him very well." And I said, I do want it, but I'm moving in 2 weeks, and I absolutely can't have anything disrupt this move. Like, it had to happen. So I said, "Call me the next time you're looking for a drummer." So literally I made my move, and 8 months later they called me, and I said, "Yes, I want the gig." Because I had been on a mountain. I moved to the mountains, and I was kind of going crazy because I wasn't playing every day like I had for most of my life. So I took the gig. So I was there for 15 years on the mountain, and it was those 15 years I was on the mountain that I had the gig with David.
I didn't know that.
Which is totally bizarre also, because generally when you move to the mountains, because I was at 4,500 elevation in the Southern Cascade Mountains, 45 minutes up in the mountains. Wow. There's no grocery store up there, no nothing, Usually if you go do something like that, you're not going to have much of a career.
Yeah, the phone's not ringing.
But
yeah,
I just got really lucky because the timing was super magical, and I really needed that. I needed that space for my health, for mentally and emotionally. So it was really an absolute magical time and incredible. And I had the gig the whole time I was there, and then...
And you guys are doing concerts. I mean, David's like a touring artist, a big star and stuff. You guys were doing, hard ticket shows, right? Yeah,
we were. The airport was an hour from my house. I would leave usually at 3 o'clock in the morning for a 6 o'clock flight. I would start driving down the mountain. So that was that.
Wow.
And we did that for 15 years, really. I took a little year and a half hiatus in the middle there at the very end, kind of.
Yeah.
And then ended up playing with him again. I was playing with him again in the studio, not live yet. But he had decided that he wanted to scale down to a 4-piece, and he wanted me to come back, and it was going to be the original band again, and we're just going to do smaller venues, and he wanted to go start doing more standards music, easier music probably, as he was getting older. He wanted to chill it out but keep going. And
was he a cool guy to work with? Was he great?
Oh, he was great. He was very cool and very fun. Like, honestly, he had the best sense of humor of anybody I've ever known. We laughed all the time. Yeah. All the time. Even when he had a little crazy streak to him, because he was drinking. He had the drinking problem, which is what ended up costing him his life, really. But
oh man,
it was a long time in the works, and but even when he would make us laugh intentionally because he was really funny. His father was obviously funny, and he was gifted in the humor department. He and my relationship were really based heavily around humor. We always laughed and joked. I was just going to say, there were moments where he would drink sometimes, it wasn't a lot, but we had a few strange shows because of it. And he had back problems and stuff, and he had medication he had to be on, and he might have had a glass of wine, and it would get a little funny. Then he would really make us laugh. Like, he really just made us laugh all the time, whether he meant to or not,
I saw some videos of you where you guys switched positions and you went up front and sang while he played the drums. Was that common? Tell me about that.
Oh yeah, that was common. He just came up to me really early, probably after I played with him a year or so or two, and he said, "I want you to come up front and sing Brass in Pocket." Because I know he played drums in the past, and I figured, he just wants to drum. So I go, okay, whatever you want, I'll do it. And so I started doing that, and it stuck. We did it every show.
How cool.
Pretty much.
How cool.
Yeah, it really was.
And folks, you don't know this, but, when you were in Scottsdale, Teri, and I was there, and we had a little band called the Groovin' Juniors. And we were playing the Handlebar J on Mondays, Sundays.
They were so good.
And we played the off nights, and it was everybody's last name was Junior, so it was Terry Jr., Jeff Jr., Bruce Jr., and JR Jr. The only guy in showbiz with the same first and last name. And but I remember you singing Wild Angels and Heads Carolina, Tails California, and blasting away some Sheryl Crow, and just
that's right.
God, you were really good at that. I can see why David wanted you.
Thank you.
What a great gig for you. I'm a really average judge of talent, so I'm glad I spotted that.
You just reminded me of the time I sang with the Glenn Campbell band when you guys did the Open for Chicago, kind of open.
Oh yeah,
down in Palm Springs.
Yes,
Yeah,
and you were friends with Tris and Bowden. I remember that.
Yes,
know all the drummers.
Did he come out and see us? I don't remember.
Yeah, I was there. He came out and saw us. Yeah, and Jason Sheff was there. Jerry Sheff's
and Bill Champlin.
Yes, and I remember that Jason's dad, Jerry Sheff, I ended up working with him in Nashville.
Oh wow!
With the TCB band. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
TCB band, that's my band, Teri Cote Project. Teri Cote band. That's literally what I call my band, TCB.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah, it was Jerry Sheff, Ronnie Tutt on drums. James Burton on guitar and Glenn D. Harden on piano, and I was playing second keys. And for the second guitar player, they brought in Reggie Young. So it was just great. Wow. Yeah, it was.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
It was a lot of fun. And,
wow.
I don't think I knew Jason or his dad at that point. So it was really cool to see that.
Wow, funny how things come around a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, I was sitting because I was going to sing, but you guys were going to do a couple songs up front, and I was sitting in the audience and Gary was nowhere to be found. And you were like, "Where's Gary? We need a drummer. Where's Gary? Where's Gary?" And then Gary comes late, and he's running onto the stage, and he's running, and he jumps up on the riser, and he trips. He did. He fell off the other side of the riser. He literally ran from one side, jumped on, tripped, snagged the drums. All I remember is the floor tom rolling, cymbals falling, everything going. God. And then at that point, he's so quick on his feet, or in his mind anyway, maybe not so much on his feet, that he decided to make a clown act out of it, and he tumbles off the riser and tumbles off the stage as if he did it all on purpose.
Oh my God. A real Chevy Chase moment, you know? Wow.
It was completely, and it was absolutely one of the most hilarious moments I've ever witnessed. It was so funny.
Think of the things we get to see and do. Oh my gosh. I remember we were playing, I don't know if it was with you, but we were playing at the Biltmore in Phoenix, and we were doing a corporate event at that big tent down below where the big event center kind of under a permanent tent. And the client came up to me and said, we have somebody that would like to sing from the client's group. And I'm like, oh, God, please no. Okay. You know, you're going to say yes because it's the client, right? Well,
right, exactly.
It turns out to be this black dude from Motown. And and we're kicking it, and Gary's back there just spanking the heck out of some R&B, and I forget what song it was. And he's up there right in the center, and he turns over to me while the song's going on. He's just rocking side to side. He goes, I've been in this business 45 years, and they didn't even give me a damn gold watch. Just like...
For real?
Yes, yeah. You know, I mean, this is just what we've done all our lives. And I was equally called to what I do, you know, with my first passion of guitar at age 5. Took till I was nine to get a guitar, and I didn't know how bad I was till I was about 25. So that was all right. But you know what? We don't mind. I mean, we don't mind because we just love doing it, and we grow
exactly.
as we go. Yeah.
That's right.
And Teri, I want to ask you about this. It's a little left of center question, but you know, in the world of music, what's it like being a female drummer? Because you know, I try to give equal time to the ladies, and there's not as many doing what you do. There really aren't too many female instrumentalists that are out there. I'm seeing a lot of young ones, but I haven't had a chance to talk to too many.
Well, it's interesting, actually, because what's it like? And there aren't that many. There's two different topics. I'm going to talk about there aren't that many first.
Okay.
Because, you know, it's like all of a sudden there were all these female drummers, and I find it really interesting. So what happened was there's a girl, she's a friend of mine. I can't think of her name right now. It's just so crazy. She has a Facebook page. It's a drumming site for female drummers, and it's very well known. There's a lot of people on it now, but at the time there was 5,000 drummers on there, and they're all women, you know, and now it's got to be huge, probably even more. And I go, isn't it interesting? There's all these female drummers. Why is it that nobody knows about any of these drummers? You know, they're not all young. They're and some are pros, but I'll say there weren't that many pros. Okay, so this goes all the way back to, but there'll be way more pros in the next 20 years. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because it's encouraged now. Whereas when I started, literally, I was told drums are for boys. Really? I was told that.
Wow.
And I was like, that's nuts. I don't even understand what they're saying to me. Like, I just didn't even hear it. Like, I'm decided I'll never hear that. I'm not hearing that. I'm not a gender. I'm a drummer. That's literally how I felt.
That is powerful, girl. That is powerful. I love it.
That's the way. I think that's why I survived it. And so I remember playing, ironically enough, I remember one night playing with the Lazy Boys in Phoenix at Mondays when Dave was still there. And this guy at the bar, and we had played our hearts out all night, and I was packing up and stuff, and this drunk guy at the bar goes, "Hey, you're pretty good for a girl." Oh. And I was like, "Oh, God, please." But, you know, it's just lame.
Yeah, and there really is kind of a stereotypical girl band, you know. It's like a novelty thing, you know, like Bangles or...
Well, that's ironic because that same gig, the next night, I played with a female funk band every week. So I would play with the Lazy Boys, with Tracy Mortimer and Junior Coda, and you probably know all those guys.
Sure.
They're all Phoenix guys. And then the next night I would play with the novelty all-female band. And it's always been a little bit of an irritating thing for me because I've never really thought about why. But, you know, not the band, not that band, just the concept of... Mm-hmm. I guess the focus on the gender is what's irritating. Yeah. And so, you know, I never thought like that. And so when it was like, oh, we got the all girl band, I'm supportive of it because I am one and I want to be supportive of it, but it was never the way I thought.
Yeah.
But then I realized maybe I should think like this a little bit because I really just felt like one of the guys all the time. And I thought like that in my mind always.
Well, you're in the band. I mean, you're a musician, not a gender, as you said, you know.
Yeah, and I always thought of it like that. So, you know, as I grew older is how I started becoming educated about the fact that the women really aren't supported that much, and there aren't that many. And the reason is because they weren't supported to do it, because of the old-fashioned mentality of drums are for boys. That's literally where it started.
I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I just, sometimes I just go down the rabbit hole and follow them wherever they go. But there are some young players out there, some young bass players, some young female drummers who are just kicking it. And I think that the fact that they can get access to all the great players and all the great lessons and all the great techniques and gear and all that stuff, and then, of course, social media attention and whatnot inspires a lot of young players. And I'm just seeing so many women who are standing tall.
It's amazing. I mean, that it really is, though, that they're supported to do it now. And it would have been like this 50 years ago, had people had the support then, but it was a different day and age, right?
Yeah.
And also it's the information age. So on top of being supported, now they get equal information at a very early age, where if you have the inspiration and the passion, you can teach yourself because it's all there and available to you.
Yeah.
So,
well, hey, I got a question for you. I've been asking this question lately. You're a grown up now, I assume, or at least on your way to that.
Trying.
I'm pretty good for a kid. Have you got anything that you would say to young Teri about your path that you took, and any advice that you would give that young player, that young lady?
Yeah, I would have said, don't take any of the days for granted. I think because I played drums for so long, and played in so many different bands and so many different styles, and it was just part of my life all the time, that I maybe took some of it for granted a little bit. And every moment is a special moment in time that, you can never go back. Once the day is over, that's a memory now. It's not going to happen again tomorrow with those people. That moment is special. You don't feel like it's special. You feel like, oh, it's another gig. We're going to go play a wedding. We're going to go play this. We're going to play that, whatever.
Yeah.
But every single gig is a special moment. And it's really easy to treat it like another average day. You're doing another gig. You're having another cup of coffee. Every moment and every group of people you play with is absolutely a special moment in time, there for you, specifically, intentionally for you to get your lessons out of that time with those people.
It's almost like we tell ourselves that there's an endless supply of these days, and it's just another day.
Yes, I really did feel that way. I felt like my life would just do this forever, and it is. I'm still doing it, but the world's changed, so it's changed a little bit. That's okay. It's going to happen. But the other thing I would say also is, I had some when I lived in Reno, I would play there at the MGM Grand before I really had played much jazz at all. I really didn't know how to play jazz, and I was playing with some good jazz players. And sometimes I'm like, why was I on that gig? Why did they have me on that gig? Why was I there? Somehow I must have had something they liked because I was there, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I just remember this, he was a piano player and he had a brother there. I think it was Bill Moyo. He played piano. He was very nice. Well, we would play in the lounge, like outside of the showroom where Sinatra was playing on a house gig at that time. He was there all the time. And his players would come out and sit in with us sometimes. This is how good this band was that I was playing with. And I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So the guy was so nice to me, the piano player. He would go, oh, play your ride right here. Play the ride. Like I literally didn't know how to play. And I thought, I look back on that and I think, what a nice guy. I had so many people like that. They were older than me because I was generally the youngest, almost always. And all of these older musicians that could have had a bad attitude playing with an inexperienced player, because everybody wants to go out and play with great players. And they were never like that to me. They were always super supportive, and they would teach me, and I would pay attention and listen with respect and try to be the best I could be with what they were telling me.
Yeah.
So I would say to everybody, if you have a player that's less experienced than you, be kind to them, help teach them. It very comes
cool.
around.
Very cool.
And be really cool and be supportive and be a teacher, and be patient and gentle. And it's really important. It's how we learn from each other. It's how the younger people get their experience playing with older people. Make it a good experience for them, because I have some of the opposite also, that I remember a few people that they weren't cool. And you want to be a good person, in life.
Well, the jerks don't last unless they've got a lot of money. They don't last. They tend to.
But then they become bigger jerks.
Well, and word gets out on who they are. But well, Teri,
it's true.
What's going on? I mean, since David Cassidy passed and that gig ended, what have you been doing with yourself?
I mean,
there's still a living to be made out there, and are you doing that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I played 5 nights a week for the last, 5 years or more. Now I'm down to 3 nights a week. As far as I have a house gig that I do. And then I do other gigs. I have other people I play with. They book me outside of that house gig. And then, I started going to Berkeley for production and songwriting.
Good for you.
Online, taking classes online. My husband's a professor there, and I always wanted to go to Berkeley. And so, after being here for several years, I realized, you know what? I can go for free. I really need to make the effort, because I don't really have the time to be doing it. But I realized even if it's 1 class a semester, I should do it. So I started doing that. And I took 1 drum class. Mostly I've been taking songwriting and production classes. So I do a lot in the studio with that, songwriting and production and recording.
Oh, good for you.
And we have our own studio here. So I've been really busy with that, and still drumming. I have a lot of students still. I still do that.
Good for you. You'd be the right teacher for, you've got that soft side that, I've known that about you since the beginning. You care about other people.
I do. I try.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, it's been a delight talking to you, and I've got about 100,000 other questions, but we try to wrap this thing up in a certain amount of time, and most people have the attention span of a chicken anyway, so they've gotten to this part in the interview. We're doing all right. But great to reconnect with you. It's been way too long, and I know that losing David was a blow to you guys. I actually caught part of a documentary, and you were featured in a lot of that, given your reflections and stuff. And I know that they always try to get like TMZ on you. They want you to dish a bunch of dirt and say a bunch of stuff that but you kept the classy side up, and I salute you for that. For all the people who are listening, not everybody listening is a guitar player or anybody from PASIC, the big drum convention. What would you like to let them know about the life of music? Because this is about that. We're trying to be a window into the world that people don't get to look through very much.
The life of music, I am so very grateful. It saved my life, and it saves my life every day. I love it so much. It brings so much joy. But besides joy, and bringing people together of the same mind, which is a beautiful thing, because I think musicians are a very gifted group of people, not only with talent, but with heart and with caring and soul. And music heals in many ways. Music, they call it, first of all, the messages can heal, depending on what message you choose to put out. The music itself heals. And there's this thing that I've learned lately, they call the sage stage of a musician's life. It's when your interest goes deeper than the songs you're writing and the words you're saying, and it goes into the actual frequencies of the instrument you're playing and the power that those frequencies have to heal. The actual healing power of the frequencies and the vibrations. It's kind of taking it in a different direction than most musicians think. So, music heals in a lot of ways. It's also, I was just talking to a music partner of mine, piano player Jane Potter. She and I've had a duo for, probably 6 years or so, and of original music. And she's an ear training professor at Berklee College of Music. And I was talking to her about the epiphany I had just recently about, if you're a human being on the planet and you want to get a message to the world, I think music is actually the most powerful tool out there. If you think about it, almost all people love music. Not all, some really don't care, but it's a very small percentage of the human race that don't care about music. Generally, people, it's the universal language, right? Mm-hmm. So you actually have a message you want to get your messages out to the world, there's not a more powerful tool than music. So I just say, embrace it, use it in a positive way. You're super powerful, way more powerful than you realize. It's a human being. And now with that tool of music, you can, if you want to heal, if you want to help make the world a better place, you can do it through your music.
Man, that is so parallel to my friend Paula Fuga, who's in Hawaii, and she's been touring with Jack Johnson for many years and John Cruz over there. And I've got a big Hawaiian connection. But she and I were doing the Kauai Music Festival as instructors and performers, and we had a group of people sitting on the floor, bare feet, Hawaiian style, and we're talking. And Paula came by and I said, Paula, talk to these young people and these aspiring writers about, what you would tell them. And she said, make the music you want the world to hear. And I love that. So it's just right on the, same spot you just hit. So great place to close this out. I'm inspired by what you said, and thank you for that, because sometimes, I'm just trying to rhyme duck with foot one more time and it's not working, and I'm just trying to finish the song, but you don't realize that there's a grander purpose in many cases. So thanks for reminding me of my mission in music. And Teri Cote, it's been a delight. She is a drumming, singing junior and just a wonderful friend, and has been forever. So we want to thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. It's so nice to talk to you.
Yeah, and all you got to do to close this out is say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Hey, baby.
Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed this show. We invite you to check out all the other episodes and share this channel with all of your friends. Until next time, peace.